All right, good afternoon, everyone. Today is September 7th, 2020. This is a special meeting of the members of the State Liquor Authority being held in Albany and also remotely. We have by video Commissioners Fan and Commissioners Ford. Chairman Bradley has advised me that there are the two items that are on the calendar he has to recuse himself from. So he's just going to be absent from this meeting, but he'll be noted as being recused in case the matters come up down the road. We also have General Counsel Meyerhoff on video. We have Deputy Commissioner of Licensing Roberts on the phone.
I'm here, Tom. Thanks.
And myself, Secretary Downey, here in the Albany offices. There are two matters on today's calendar, both requests from Counsel's office for summary orders of suspension. The first item is 1139 TT Queens OP 1307822. The licensee is 4114 KS Inc.
Yes, good afternoon. Stephen Armstrong on behalf of Counsel's Office, support of the summary suspension of this licensee doing business as Zurang, located at 4114 162nd Street in Flushing, Queens. The premises is licensed as a restaurant, so full OP license, first licensed in April of 2018. The interior of the premises, there is several private karaoke rooms, as well as a sit-down dining area in the rear of the premises. There's a patio area behind the premises, but the licensee is not permitted to use this area under the terms of the license. As to the executive order violations here, on Thursday, September 3rd, beginning at approximately 9 p.m., SLA investigator Charles Stravali, along with officers from the NYPD Bike Squad, conducted a visit to the premises. Immediately upon entering, they observed two patrons standing in the hallway entrance area, appearing that they were waiting to be seated. The investigators then proceeded to the dining area, the back of the premises, where they observed approximately a dozen patrons seated at tables inside the premises with food and drink orders visible on the tables. Investigator Stravali also observed a large enclosure that had been built on the rear of the premises. There were an additional 10 to 12 patrons seated in this enclosure. As you can see in the photos, the entrance door to this structure is what should be the rear exit door on the diagrams. So this is an extension of the premises that was built over the rear patio area, which, as I said, is not part of the licensed premises. As is also clear from the photos, this is a permanent, substantial structure. There's wooden paneling throughout, as well as a fixed roof. There are small windows located next to most of the tables, but this is still clearly a structure that violates Department of Health guidance for outdoor dining, which requires that such an area be open on at least two sides and have a temporary roof. Licensee was unable to produce Department of Buildings permits for the construction of this extension. According to Deputy Commissioner Roberts, we have no record of this licensee ever applying for an alteration. It's not clear if this was built recently as an attempt to create an outdoor dining area or if this is something that existed before the pandemic, but it is clear this is a major unauthorized alteration, and we will be adding a charge for that to the notice of pleading before it's sent out. Investigators probably also noted a number of other violations, including purchase from unauthorized source, failure to maintain books and records, several fire code violations. Now, on-premises service has been prohibited in New York City since Governor's Executive Order 202.3, which went into effect in March 16th of this year. The licensee cannot plausibly claim at this point they were unaware of this restriction. It's understood that indoor gatherings in confined spaces, like those permitted by the licensee here, pose a heightened risk of transmission of the COVID-19 virus. And by ignoring these risks and continuing to permit indoor dining, this licensee poses a clear threat to the public health, safety, and welfare. And based on this record, I ask the members vote to summarily suspend this license pursuant to Section 413 of the State Administrative Procedure Act. Thank you.
Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions? You're muted, Commissioner Fan.
Hey, Council Armstrong, can you explain the photos to me just one more time? So these little rooms with these doors, they're all new structure that were built with doors?
Yes, this is, so you see in the, on page 9, there's a, you can see it's the color photo, it's the red wall, and behind that, Everything behind that red wall is part of the extension. So that's built over the patio area outside.
I see. And there is a roof to it.
Yes, there is.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. All right. I don't have any questions. Thank you, Tom.
It's Gary. I was just going to add, it appears that in addition to arrogating to itself the right to go ahead and build all this, they also decided that they would serve inside in that space.
Right.
So in addition to the people found inside the licensed area inside, there's also people inside these areas as well.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
Yes. Hey, Council, did you say that they were a karaoke license as well? Did you say that?
Yes, they do have several private karaoke rooms that I don't believe they were in use at the time of the inspection.
So yeah, I was going to ask about these rooms too, if that's what they were being used for, but not to our knowledge, you're saying?
No, it's not mentioned in the report. I know Investigator Cervalli is usually very thorough, so I'd assume if there was anything going on in there, he would have included it in the report.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, with that, I'll call for the vote of the members. First, Commissioner Fan.
By deciding to put a legal structure up and putting patrons in there, and also allowing indoor service during the COVID-19 pandemic, there are two reasons that I find imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare at this licensed premise, and therefore I vote to summarily suspend this license.
All right, then, Commissioner Ford, your vote.
And, you know, there's several other issues too, such as no flame proofing affidavit. Alcohol was purchased from a retail store, books and records not on premises. Other issues such as fire extinguishers not being properly mounted or gas tanks not being properly secured. Not to mention the unapproved extension of premises. So for all those reasons and everything as stated by council and Commissioner Fan, I vote to summarily suspend.
All right, thank you. The next item I have is agenda number 1139W. It's King's OP 1296873. The licensee is Nothing But Net LLC.
Good afternoon, members. This is Kayla O'Donnell on behalf of Council's Office. Council's Office is seeking an emergency summary order of suspension for the licensee doing business as Marcos, located at 1071 Broadway in Brooklyn, New York. On September 4th, SLA investigator Cervalli visited licensed premises. Upon arrival, he observed a security guard standing in the rear yard, which is part of the licensed premises, smoking marijuana. The licensee also indicated that it wouldn't use security guards on its method of operation. As the report and photos in the record before you indicate, upon entering the rear yard, investigator Cervalli observed 37 individuals seated at tables which had drinks on them, but not any food. Notably, the rear yard was overcrowded as the licensee's certificate of occupancy allows only 18 people to be in the rear yard at a time. The licensee's bartender told investigator Cervalli that the only food being offered for sale was chips and pretzels. Investigator Cervalli observed about 10 frozen pretzels in stock. One of the licensee's principals arrived during the inspection and stated that he's been operating with this type of food service for several months, so he did admit this. The licensee is being charged with violating Executive Order 202.52 for failing to require patrons purchase substantial food items with the purchase of alcoholic beverages. Investigator Cervalli also observed patrons standing at the bar window in the rear yard ordering beverages without table service. It's clear that the licensee is operating an outside bar, not using the rear yard for outside dining, which is permitted in their executive orders. Outside drinking is not permitted, outside dining is permitted. Additionally, 10 individuals were observed standing in line waiting to enter the rear area. They were standing within 6 feet of each other in violation of Executive Order 202.43. The security guard did not enforce social distancing between these individuals. None of the employees were in charge, and they would not allow investigator Cervalli to conduct an inspection of the basement, where according to the licensee's establishment questionnaire, that is where the alcohol is stored. The establishment questionnaire is part of the record before you. In addition to violating Executive Orders 202.52 and 202.43, licensee is also being charged with failing to supervise the premises, failing to comply with maximum occupancy, pre-mixing, failure to comply for smoking on the premises, failure to permit an inspection, books and records, unmounted and uninspected fire extinguishers, unsecured gas tanks, and improper conduct for having no workers' comp or disability insurance. Since the licensee has shown an inability to comply with the executive orders, which were designed to prevent the spread of COVID-19, or even basic New York City or ABC law regulations, to allow the licensee to operate while the charges are being litigated would endanger the health, welfare, and safety of patrons and employees, as well as their families and the community as a whole. In consideration of them, an emergency order of summary suspension is required. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. Just wanted to clarify one point for the members. While there is an outside occupancy issue based on this license and perhaps on the certificate of occupancy, interestingly, if you're serving outside under the executive orders, all you have to do is make sure that your tables are spaced enough and you could actually seat as many as you like. So there's no 50% rule outside, I guess is my point. So that piece of it isn't an executive order violation. It is a violation of other laws, and they're being charged with that. But the executive order violations here are for the congregating in front, for the congregating at the bar, at the stand-up bar, the self-service bar, and for operating without any food. This is a bar type service, not a dining service, as Kayla mentioned. Thanks.
All right, with that, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Gary, for that explanation. That was super helpful. Kayla, do they have any adverse history?
I do not believe so.
Okay. And you said something about no one being in charge. Can you just go through that again?
Yeah, so Investigator Cervali asked to speak to whoever is in charge. There was no manager present, and none of the licensee's principals were present until he had been there conducting his inspection for some time, at which point one of the principals appeared.
Got it. Okay.
Arrived, I guess, rather.
Okay, thank you.
All right, then, Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
Kayla, when was this place licensed?
About 2017, early 2017.
And thank you. And so the rear area was authorized, but it was overcrowded. Is that correct?
Right, so they did put on their establishment questionnaire, they would have a rear area. However, they got a certificate of occupancy and it listed the number of people permitted inside the premises, and it listed the number of people permitted in their rear yard, and the number of people permitted in the rear yard is only 18.
Okay. And Gary, you were saying that they were operating as a stand-up bar, and to our knowledge, there weren't even any tables out front. There were no tables. Is that correct? When I looked at the pictures, it didn't look like it.
The tables are in the back, right, Kayla?
Yeah, the tables are in the back, and the bar, there's a stand-up bar in the rear yard.
But they had no tables out front where they had the stand-up bar, the walk-up bar.
That bar is in the back.
Well, that was in the
It's
back.
where people could patrons could go to the bar and order drinks instead of having to be seated and have someone come take their orders.
Oh, that was in the back. Okay. Yeah, thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
Commissioner Ford, it looks like they had some people congregating in front waiting to get in. They were online and not being socially distanced, even though there was a bouncer, a security guard on duty, and there were people congregating near the stand-up bar in the back.
Got it. Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, with that, I'll call for your vote. Commissioner Fan. Commissioner Fan, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Oh, that's good. Given the evidence presented by counsel and supplemented by Counsel Meyerhoff, I find that there's imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, and I vote to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford, your vote.
Well, the manager was not on site as was committed to in the application. And for other reasons, as stated by both councils, I vote to summarily suspend as well.
All right, then. I have no other items on. Thank you all for taking time out of your Labor Day for the meeting. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you, Tom.